We've just caught up with David Corn here at NBC's Washington Bureau. He's the Washington Bureau Chief of Mother Jones and an MSNBC contributor. Of course, you changed the campaign yesterday by obtaining and posting an online video of Mitt Romney at a fundraiser talking about the 47% of Americans who he says are victims, they're dependent on the government, they have an entitlement mentality. Did you go after this video or did somebody bring it to you?
What happened was I'd been reporting on Mitt Romney and a lot of Bain investments and breaking stories along those lines. And there was a video clip that had already emerged on the web of Mitt Romney talking about one of these investments. And a fellow who had helped me, a guy named James Carter, who'd given me some research assistance.
Okay, he's not just a guy named James Carter. He's the grandson of former President Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. I didn't actually know that at the time. James Carter. It's like there are a lot of James Carters out there, right?
Right.
So, but he's a researcher. He called me and he said, "I have some, SEC documents that I've turned up on Mitt Romney." We talked a bit about that, and so he knew that I was interested in sort of these Chinese investments.
And so it was Carter who.
But what Carter happened was Carter looked at this clip that came out and said, "Let's find this guy."
Mm-hmm.
And he started digging, and he made contact with the source, and then without knowing even what the source had, he then put me in touch with him. And then, you've done this, Howie. I spent, 2 weeks or so going back and forth with him about what do you have, how can we use it, and finally convincing him to let me see the whole tape and giving me access to it.
Do you think the source was more likely to want to do business with you because you work for Mother Jones, because you're a well-known liberal commentator, because you're a Romney critic, and he felt like you would take it and do it in the way that was most damaging to Mitt Romney?
I don't know. He's told me that he's read my books, and he was familiar with the earlier Bain stories that I've done, which were investigative pieces, and he was impressed by that. So he thought that, and I think he may have believed that the earlier China tape did not get as much attention as it should have. And I was one of the few guys who, in fact, I was the only person who had written about that particular investment of Bain Capital.
But is there an ideological aspect to this?
I don't think so. My guess is, I haven't asked, is that he's left of center. But what I'm told is that this was not a hit job or an infiltration. No, he didn't go there looking to get Romney. He just thought it would be kind of interesting what this, he was in a room with a presidential candidate, what this person would have to say.
Now, when you first posted this, you said, in order to protect my confidential source, we're not going to ask you who the source is, of course. I'm not going to say exactly where or when this took place, but then you went on MSNBC and said it took place in Boca Raton last night.
I was released from the obligation. As the story got big and went everywhere, some of the earlier agreements that I made with the source about trying to give him some cover, he freed me from. So we were able to say where it happened, and we have unblurred some of the video that initially was blurred, and that was all the decision of the sources.
Romney's comments, and of course the Obama campaign has jumped on this.
Right.
Democrats have jumped on it. Is this a 2-day story or a 2-month story? How revealing is this of Mitt Romney? How much of a problem is it for Mitt Romney?
I'm obviously kind of close to it, and it's hard to
You
say,
are.
and I don't want to raise expectations at all about my own work and the impact. I think it feeds into a narrative he's been fighting all along, that he's a 1%er, not one of us, doesn't really understand it. To me, when I watched the whole video, and much of it was kind of boilerplate stuff, what you'd expect. But when I got to this, the sweep of the remarks, just it wasn't saying that some Obama voters are like this or Obama gets the votes of people.
47%.
He said all Obama voters have this mentality and don't believe in personal responsibility. And to me, that was not a mistake. And people can watch it. It was a long explanation. It wasn't off the cuff, as he says. It wasn't inelegant, as he says. It kind of conveyed a certain mindset that in this land of ours, politics comes down between strivers, those of us who succeed on our own, take initiative, and the rest of the masses who are freeloaders.
But the rap is going to be that the liberal media are jumping on this because they're not particularly sympathetic to Mitt Romney, because they still love President Obama and are going to make more of this than just the typical campaign trail embarrassment.
Well, people can judge this for themselves. That's the great thing about video.
It's his own words.
There's no filter here whatsoever. There's no out of context argument to be made. And so if it continues on, it will be because it resonates, like any story. There's sometimes stories die, some keep going. But I think this will fit into a general critique of Romney that people on the left, people in the center, David Brooks is making this morning.
The conservative New York Times columnist.
So,
nothing inelegant about your remarks, David Corn.
Thanks
very much for joining us here in the halls of NBC News.